Brian Hughes, he started in the gym in Colliers, which was Willett Street, next to the police station, many years ago when I was probably about 3. If that Brian Hughes was there in that gym, and then it from when all the houses was getting knocked down and everything was moving, he found it. He moved to a gym. He found a gym, and he moved it to Moston, and that's how it became Colliers and Moston, because he still kept the Colliers brand, but because it was in the area of Moston, then obviously he had to tie that into it. Brian Hughes was known for doing the amateurs and putting a lot of amateur shows on and going over to America just to get a lot of experience. Brian Hughes was, all the things that he told me about him, he never really boxed. He was in the army. I think he was, what do you say he was now? He was not a Marine, or like a sailor. Yeah. And when he was working on the boats, I think he did a bit of boxing. He said to me, "You know what, man? I know I was going to lose this fight." So I remember biting the guy's face or something so he could get disqualified. He said he didn't want to get knocked out. I didn't want to get stopped before I get disqualified. And he never boxed there. He got disqualified. And I never forget that story. And then he says he went on to go into America, met Emmanuel Stewart, become good friends with him. Dave Jacobs, Sugar Ray Leonard. He met a lot of great people, Brian Hughes did. And he had so much contact in the States because he spent a lot of time in the States learning about the flamboyance of the way the Americans fought. It was none of this English, European, stand-up straight style. No, Brian was always into this what he called it flamboyance, very slicky, that kind of caliber. He loved it. And it was like, whoa, you look back at this guy and you're thinking, how is he teaching this kind of rhythm? And he did. You know what I mean? He's like a soul man. It's what he did with all the fights. Brian Hughes would walk up and see a big 6'6" black kid on the streets, don't even know. Say, have you ever done boxing before? Say, no. So how would you like it? Come to my gym then. That's it. He just walked up to people because he just thought, hey, he'd make a good one. And he had a million kids, Brian, in the gym. The gym was rammed. It was absolutely magnificent. And he was training kids from nothing. Manufactured himself. Didn't get them ready-made. He trained them from nothing. Made them all great fighters because you know what Brian Hughes could do? Get in your head. That's what Brian Hughes was good at doing. He was so calm and so cool and so collected, but his words was everything. It counted. And to me, there's never a trainer like him. There was a trainer like Brian Hughes that I thought was very good, and I watched him. I never really took note of him, and that was Brendan Ingle. I never worked with him. That was Prince Nazim's trainer. I've never worked with him, but I watched him, and I watched how he talked like a nice, and you could see the way it was, and Brian had that kind of person. Yeah, and he was also great in Sheffield. Brian was great in Manchester. This is why Brian was called the godfather of Manchester boxing, because he was magnificent. He trained Phil Martin, who ended up having like 5, 6 British champions in his gym, Champs Camp from Moss Side. Brian was just a man. Everybody knew who Brian was before anything. He was just a man. He's a big part of boxing, a big part of people's life, big part of my life, big part of Colliers and Moston, the gym. It's not Pat and Tommy's gym, it's still the Brian Hughes gym. I would just hope that I'd done him proud. Probably people might say different, but I would just hope that I have, because regardless, however you look at it, I don't think this is the world that he was in, and I don't think anybody's going to fly that flag as much as I can fly it, because as you can see, I've got Zelfa Barrett that's fought for the world title, which is my nephew, which I've trained him from scratch. I've got Lyndon Arthur that's fighting for the world title, which I've had him from he was 17 years old. I've known him all his life, but in my life, all his life, I've trained him from scratch. Obviously, not just me and Tommy McDonough. I'm not going to take all that credit. Tommy was a great part of it as an amateur. We did it together. So, I think me and Tommy coming from Brian Hughes, we've got that kind of, Tommy's got that subtle calm where he's got it to a T. And Tommy can really get into a fighter's head and get into anybody's head. He even gets into mine sometimes. I've got to spit him back out. He makes you do things that, hey, hang on a minute, Tommy. You know, nah, that's not right. But it's good. It's a good teamwork. It's a good team effort. And I think Brian would to see that one of his two, and I'm going to say two of his loyalist fighters, because we never went to no other trainer. Yeah, and we've retired and we've finished with Brian, and you know we've taken over the gym and we take it to the same places where Brian had it with all the great fighters that he trained. We're two different people. I don't have an MBE. I don't have his qualification of what he had. I'm a kind of like, I've been like a disciple towards Brian. Like I watched him, I learned. I mean, I remember there's another great trainer, like Freddie Roach. He learned off one of the greatest, Eddie Fudge. Yeah, and he was just around, you know, just following him around, just you know, learning everything about the game from him. And now he's one of the best coaches. And it's the same with Brian Hughes, just being around him, just going to the tournaments with him, just help assist him in the corner, watched how he trained, watched how he could close the cut up. And you know, he used to have this thing where he would just pinch it like this and pinch the skin and hold it together. And as he was talking, and for some reason after a bit, and then he'd put the agenda on it. And he'd stop cuts just like that. It's just all these things, these little things, the way he was. The only difference between Brian and myself is Brian was so calm, he could just talk to you. Now listen now, a dead nice, dead gentle voice. Well, and to an extent it worked. But then after a little bit, when you got cocky little kids that think they know something, you know, it doesn't work then. You have to have a different way. So I just think, to me, what Brian taught me was, I'm just shadowing. I still hear his voice when I'm in the gym. Do you know what I mean? I still remember things that he would say, but I can't be Brian Hughes. So as much as now, as what I've learned from him, I have to tie that in with my own experience than what he made me have, like going to the States, meeting different coaches, just being a different kind of person, how I lived my life before, bring it into boxing, teaching kids about respect differently. I can't teach them about him like how he did it. Do you know what I mean? But there's one thing that, like I'll always say, I always looked up to him as that person, no matter what anybody says.